Hey guys, in this video I will share with you some code examples that perform AJAX calls for HTTP GET and POST requests using jQuery in a Spring Boot project. You will learn how to write code that calls HTTP GET POST request via AJAX using jQuery in a Spring Boot project, and the reason that we need to use AJAX is very obvious: to increase responsiveness and provide better user experience for a responsive web application. Suppose that we have an existing Java project using the following technologies: Spring Boot, Spring Data JPA, and Hibernate framework for the data access layer, Thymeleaf for the template engine, and HTML, Bootstrap, and jQuery for the view layer. And in this video, I'm using the following software programs: Java Development Kit JDK, Spring Tools Suite IDE SDS, MySQL database, both server and workbench. Here I have an existing Spring Boot project in Spring Tools Suite IDE. You see the project showed me backend, and let me start this Spring Boot application. As you can see, this Spring Boot application, we run an embedded Tomcat server listening on port 8080, and the context path is submit admin. Okay, the application is up and running. Tomcat started. Now let's access this Spring Boot application in Chrome browser. Go to localhost port 8080, and the context path is submit admin. Here you see the submit admin control panel, and in this video I will update the project code for the create new product feature. Here you see when the new product form appears, the user can choose a brand, for example Apple, Dell, Honda, Samsung, and the corresponding categories that associated with the selected brand will display in this drop down list, and we will use AJAX with jQuery to do this. And as you can see, a brand can associate with one or more categories. Here this is the categories, and this is a brands. For example, Dell belong to or is associated with computer and accessories, laptop computers. And when create a new product, the user selects a brand, and the corresponding categories will be loaded in this drop down list. And the second task I will perform to demonstrate using jQuery to call AJAX is the edit create user function. Here, when create a new user or editing an existing user, the email of the user is unique. For example, I copy email of this user and I edit this user, and I change the email to that user, and our application should check the uniqueness of the email and display a warning message before submitting the form. For example, I click save button here, and for now it displays an error message, and you can see in the console view the details of the error message is you see duplicate entry for the key email unique. That means email is unique, and we want to display a friendly warning error message right inside the form to provide better user experience and increase responsiveness of the application. I draw this diagram to help you understand how to use jQuery to perform AJAX calls for HTTP GET POST request in the context of a Spring Boot application. You see, on the server side, in the controller layer, we need to have a REST controller, which is a RESTful Web Services controller that exposes a method which is invoked by the client. The client is the web browser. In HTML-based, we use jQuery to make a AJAX call HTTP request to the server, and the REST controller will be invoked. The REST controller depends on a services class that depends on a repository class, and Spring Data JPA we provide the implementation for the repository, and Spring Data JPA uses Hibernate framework, which uses the DBC driver to talk with the underlying database. And the REST controller returns a response to the client in form of plain text or JSON format, and the client use jQuery to update the DOM key of the HTML document. So that the workflow of our Spring Boot application to implement AJAX calls with jQuery and RESTful Web Services controller. And in our Spring Boot project, we have a REST controller. You see brand REST controller class here, and in this controller, it implements a method here. You see a REST controller, actually a RESTful Web Service controller, and you can see it depends on the brand service, and this method is exposed to the client. And you can see this is a URL which the client needs to use to contact to the server, and this method returns a list of category objects in form of JSON. We can use CURL tool in Windows to test this RESTful Web Service for the REST controller. Open command prompt, and by default Windows come with the CURL program, which we can use to test RESTful Web Services. This is a URL, and let's see the ID for brand. Here we have ID 3 for brand Apple here, and now let's type the URL comment here. CURL, and the URL http localhost port 8080 submit admin brands, and the ID of the brand, which is 3 for the brand Apple here, and then categories. So this is the URL which the client need to use to contact to the server. Enter, and you can see the server returns a JSON response, which is a list of category. You see in this response the brand ID 3 is associated with only one category, which is mobile phones here. And in the user interface in the web browser, you can see Apple brand is associated with mobile phones. And let's test with the brand ID 12 down here, which has 2 categories, computer and accessory and laptop computers here. So we run the command again with different ID. Now we use the ID 12, and you can see in the response we have 2 category objects, ID 22 name computer and accessories, and the second object ID 43 name laptop computers. And let's try another test with the brand ID 14 term here with several categories. ID 14, ID 14, and you can see the server returns several category objects in form of JSON format here. And in the client side, we need to use jQuery to perform AJAX call to this URL and pass the response to update the HTML document to display the list of categories associated with a product in the product new form here. When the user selects the category here, this is the syntax of the .ajax method in the jQuery API. You see, we use this syntax $.ajax, and the HTTP method type the URL, the data to the server, and we use some callback functions. The done function will be executed when the call completed. So we process the response if the call succeeds here, and we implement the flow callback function, which is invoked in case of error, and always callback function is invoked regardless of error or not. And you can refer to the full details of this method in jQuery website here at this URL. In our project, you can see I use jQuery here. You can see the script tag. I use jQuery here. You can see from Google APIs. I use jQuery version 3.4.1 here. As you can see, jQuery 3.4.1. Now let's write code in the product form here. Scrolling to the end of the document, and in the event ready of the document here, we will load categories based on the selected brand in the form. In the form here, the user selects a brand, and we invoke a method to display the categories associated with the selected brand using jQuery perform AJAX calls. So we name the method as getCategories and write the method right below. Function getCategories. And the first time we use a fixed URL. Yeah, we can copy the URL we use test in command line here. Mark, copy this URL. Paste, and we use jQuery.ajax called $.ajax, and then we specify HTTP method is get, because in the REST controller we use get mapping for this handler method, you see. And then the URL, we don't need to pass any data, so we don't specify data. And then follow by some callback function. You see, we implement done, fail, and always. The done method will be invoked. Function in the done method will be invoked when the call succeeds, no error. For testing purpose, we just alert the response here, response from the server. In case of error, this callback method will be invoked and it will execute this function, and we alert error connecting to the server, and the callback method always function. This callback method will be always invoked regardless of error or not. Alert always executed. That's it for testing purpose. Now we use a wrong URL to okay, to demonstrate this statement will be executed. Okay, save the changes and refresh the product new form, and open the developer tools in Chrome to make sure that we don't have any error. More tools, developer tools. We have what error? Invalid or unexpected token here. Machine in the code. AJAX URL is URL string. Okay, and let's refresh. Okay, no more error. Oh no, sorry. We still have error here. So when testing AJAX in Chrome, we should open the developer tools or press the shortcut key F12 to make sure that we don't have error, syntax error. Now let's refresh. You can see we got the message error connecting to the server, which exactly the code in the fail callback function here, because we use the wrong URL. And now let's update this URL to a correct one. Okay, and you can see after that the callback method always is executed. You see. Now let's refresh this form. And you can see it alert display object because the response from server is JSON format. And we need to use jQuery to update the HTML document to display the categories in the drop-down list here. So in this callback method, done. And change this to response JSON. And first we need to select the category drop-down list. Let's see the ID of the category drop-down list. Open the view the page source, and you can see the ID of the drop-down element that will be used to show the categories belong to a selected brand. Let me see. It is here. You see, it is a select HTML element, and you can see the ID is category here. So we use jQuery to select that element using jQuery selector. And for each object in the list, we use this jQuery each method for each in the list data response JSON. We invoke execute function. And you can see in the response of the server in JSON format, we have the attribute of the object is ID and name. So in this callback function, we specify the name of the attribute ID and index is the index of the element, and category is the object in the list. And then we alert the index plus for object category we adjust the attribute ID and name, ID plus and name category dot name. The attribute name should match the name in the JSON here, ID and name. Okay, and let's refresh, comment this statement. Okay, and refresh, and you can see the server returns JSON format, and we see index 0, ID 3 for category mobile phones. Very good, right? And let's update for the brand ID 14, brand ID 12, which associate with two categories. So we change the ID to 12 here, and let's refresh the form. And you can see the first element, category ID 22, computer and accessories, and the second ID 43, laptop computers. Awesome, right? And now we use jQuery to update, to add element to the drop-down list category. So we use create a option tag with value is ID of the category, and text is the name of the category name, and append to the category and drop down element here. Okay, save and refresh the form, and you can see the categories for the brand Apple appears in the raw list. Sorry, for the brand ID 12, because we fixed the ID of the brand here. ID 12 is let's check in the database. For the brand ID 12, you can see brand ID 12 is Dell here, associate with categories computer and accessories and laptop computers. And now let's update the code to dynamically display the categories based on the selected brand. So view the page source, and you can see the select drop down brand here. Select, and you can see the ID of this select is brand here, and we can use the query to select the selected element here. Brand ID is a value of the element with ID brand dot value var. and we concatenate the URL with the brand ID here plus a brand ID. Okay, and we need to add call this method get categories in the handler method of the list brand. So we specify event handler for the chain function of the brand element, which you drop down list here. Change event function. And call get categories. So each time the user change the selected brand, the categories will be updated for that brand. And before that, we need to empty the drop-down categories first. Empty and refresh the new form. Refresh, and you see the category for brand Apple is only one mobile phones. And let's select Casio, Sport, Dell. You see, Dell is associated with two categories, and Samsung is associated with electronics and mobile phones, and Child is associated with several categories. Perfect, right? And to complete the code, we need to use the dynamic URL, so it doesn't depend on the context path and the port. So we use Thymeleaf. We use Thymeleaf to Thymeleaf syntax to generate a dynamic URL. And always callback function we don't need. That's we need the done to process the response when success and fail to display a error warning message. And here we use Thymeleaf to display a correct URL. Here. So the URL will not depend on the port number and context path. Okay, save the changes and let's refresh the form. We got an error here connecting to the server because the URL is wrong. Let's view the page source to see the URL generated. And you can see this is the URL generated by Thymeleaf. Shop me admin, we have double shop me admin, so we remove this only slash brands, and it match the URL mapping in the handler method here. Okay, save and refresh. Okay, it works. Let's view the page source, and you can see the generated URL here. URL string shop me admin slash brand here. So when we change the port number and change the context path, the URL is always correct. Okay, so far so good. jQuery API also provides the .get method. That's the shorthand for the .ajax method for performing HTTP GET request with AJAX. And now let's update our code to use this .get method to make AJAX call for HTTP GET request. For more information about the syntax of this method, you can see this URL. Okay, now we use a general method .ajax, and now we use a specific method to perform get request. So we use a .get here, and we don't need to specify the method type. There's a URL, and in the syntax you can see URL and followed by a callback function, which will be invoked when the call completed successfully. Let's undo, and we use the .get method here. .get URL string and function response JSON. This is a shorthand more convenient than the general .ajax method, and we copy this code or move this code to this callback method. Okay, and the fail function here we move to this and delete this general method to use only the .get method function for each. Okay, change this variable to only URL. Okay, save the changes and let's refresh the product new form. View the developer tools to make sure that no error. This is the for error for an image not found, not related. Now change the brand Apple and down, and you can see it automatically connects to the server and gets the response to display the categories associated with the selected brand. And for the brand Samsung electronics and mobile phones, you can see brand Samsung. The brand Samsung is associated with electronics and mobile phones here, and Philips is associated with category consumer electronics product. New, select Philips, and you can see perfect, right? So that's how to use jQuery to perform AJAX for HTTP GET request and pass the response in JSON format and update the HTML document using jQuery. And next, I'm going to show you how to use jQuery to make AJAX call for HTTP post request. jQuery API provides this .post method, which we can use to make AJAX call for HTTP post method .post URL parameters for the request, and this is a callback function when the code completed successfully, and the other callback functions is the same. And for more details about this .post method, you can refer to this URL. Back to our project, and let me open another REST controller class in for the user here. We have the user REST controller class here, which is a RESTful web service controller, and in this controller we have a handler method which handles HTTP post, you see, for this URL, and in this handler method it will return a string as a response, either duplicated or okay if the user email is found with another user in the database. It will return duplicated, otherwise returns okay. And we will implement update the create new user or edit an existing user to perform a unique check for the email of the user. Back to our project and update the code for the user form, which in this file you see user underscore form dot html. Yeah, we write code for a new JavaScript method function check unique email form, and this method will be called invoked on submit of the form. You see the form tag here, and we specify on submit return the value of this form. This here is a form object. Okay, and in the REST controller handler method, you can see it requires two parameters, user ID and email. First, we need to get the user ID. View page source, and you can see there's a hidden field for the ID of the user here, ID, and there is a email form with the ID email here. You see. Okay, now let's get value of that user ID equal. We use the query selector, select element with ID and value, and we do the same for user email equal the query select email value, and the URL to the REST controller is this time we create a dynamic URL like in the product form here, like this. User REST controller user slash check underscore email. So we copy this Thymeleaf, we replace correct URL slash user slash check underscore email. Okay, here you can see. And for making AJAX post request, we need to pass parameters object here. So we specify params equal an array, and the name of the parameter is ID. The value is of the value of the variable user ID. Email value is user email, and we call the jQuery.post method passing the URL parameters, callback function response, and other callback function, for example fail function, and we alert error connecting to the server. And at the end of this method, we return false to prevent the form from being submitted to the server, and we only submit when we get a positive response from the server. Okay, save the changes, and now let's test. Refresh the user new form. users. We edit user ID 1 here. We use the page source to verify the URL for the AJAX core. You see the URL for AJAX core here. submit_admin/user/check_email, which is correct. Okay, now let's update the code to alert the response, to show the response from the server, and refresh again and click save, and we got error connecting to the server. Let's see what the error is about in the console view. In let's clear the console view and try again. Save. We got error connecting to the server, and in the console view we got a fault 3 error, which is a forbidden error. The client doesn't have permission to access a resource on the server. It's because in this Spring Boot application I use Spring Boot security. As you can see in the pom.xml file here, I use Spring security, you see here, and with Spring security is enable a form for HTTP post method. We have a special hidden field to prevent CSRF attack, as you can see in the page source here. Spring security, we generate this hidden field. You can see the name is underscore CSRF, and value is a random string. And when performing AJAX call for HTTP post method, we also need to send this send a parameter with this name to the server, so we won't get the forbidden error 403 error anymore. So update the code to include the value for the CSRF hidden field here. We name the variable is CSRF value is we don't have ID for this CSRF. We just have name, so we need to select by name in the query. Input name equal underscore CSRF value, and we need to include this value to the parameters to be sent in the request. Name is underscore CSRF, and value, you see the name and value. Name should match the name of the input field here. Okay, save the changes, and now let's refresh again. Clear the console. Okay, edit, refresh, save. We still got the error connecting to the server. Let's see what is the error about. We got no pointer exception in the user services class at line 83. That is the good news, because that means the AJAX core has passed the Spring security by sending the CSRF value in the request here. So the REST controller is invoked, which calls this method in the user services class. You can see here. I forgot a sub character to get the email by ID. Okay, save the change and test again. Save, and you can see the response from server is okay because I doesn't change the email. Now I change the email to a different value, which is also unique in the database. And let's see all the rows in the user table in the database, and you can see the email of the user here. You see. Now let's click save button. And you can see error connecting to the server. Let's see what the error is about. We got error 500. Clear the console view and refresh the form and test again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Save. We still got error connecting to the server. We'll also get a no pointer exception at line 3083. So we need to check for this. User by email is not no, and user by email ID is not equal to the ID of the currently editing user. Okay, save the changes, and we need to wait for the application to restart. So you see, with jQuery, it's not difficult to perform AJAX calls. Now let's refresh, click save, and we got OK from the server, response from server. Now let's change the email to another value, which also not exist in the database. We also got the result OK from the server. Now let's change the email to another one which existed in the database. Let's see, I copy this email, sora@hotmail.com. Okay, and paste into this form, and the server should return a response duplicated. You see, the server returns duplicated response. Perfect, right? Okay. Okay, and we need to check the response in the callback function here. If response equal, okay, then we allow the form to be submitted. Form submit. Else, if we check if the response equal duplicated, then we display a warning message. Otherwise, we also display a error message. In this case, the error message is unknown. The response from the server. And in this case, we say that there is another user having this email, having the email user email. So the user must change the email to another one which doesn't exist in the database. Okay, save the changes and test again. refresh, edit this user. Now I change the email to the email of this user, sarah@hotmail.com, and I should got a warning message. You see, there's the another user having the email sarah@hotmail.com. Perfect, right? And I change the email, come back to my email. Okay, I just want to change the roles admin and support. Okay, and click save button, and it should permit the form to be submitted to the server, and the change will be updated. Click save, and you can see the form has been submitted, and we got the successful message. The user has been saved successfully. And you can see in the roles, and now this user has only roles admin and support. Perfect, right? So as you can see, with the AJAX course, the responsiveness of the application is increased. The user can get the feedback immediately, and the page doesn't need to be refreshed. Let's test again to create a new user. Now let's enter the user which exists in the database. This email exists in the database. Full name, element, password, random string, row, shipper, save, and you can see it says there is another user having the email element company.com, and we need to change the email. Pep Smithy, for example, and email pep@gmail.com. This email doesn't exist in the database, so it will save this user. You see, the user has been saved successfully. You can see that user is here, Smithy Zipper. Perfect, right? So far, you have learned how to use jQuery to perform AJAX calls for HTTP GET and POST requests in a Spring Boot project. I hope you will find this video helpful. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share this video. Thank you.